What's up, everybody? Welcome to Pre-Alpha. It's the show where we discuss design and things that matter. The way our format is, we're going to have four topics, each 15 minutes long, and we will talk about the design in those topics. I'm Nemo, and this is Glenn,
What's up?
and we'll just jump right into it. And the first topic we're going to talk about is autonomous charging stations. Take it,
Yes.
yeah.
So the idea I had about this was we have autonomous vehicles and we have charging stations, and autonomous vehicles are kind of synonymous with electric vehicles now. So I was thinking that to help relieve charging station congestion, why don't we use like a charging station structure that kind of communicates to all of the EVs that is going to be using it. And the way it would work is you'd arrive to the charging station, enter some type of queue, and then as the spots open up in the charging locations, they would autonomously move out of the spot, and then the next car in queue would move in. And the uh, charging types that would have to be used, their charging technology would have to be like inductive charging or the Tesla snake charger thing.
Hmm.
So if you do this, then the whole thing can be automated and there needs to be no human input. You just arrive to the parking spot, you get in the queue, you're in the mall for a few hours, and then if you're there long enough, then maybe your car will be charged by the time you get out. And with superchargers being like 15 minutes or so, I don't know the actual time of it, but it's pretty quick, then you can hopefully guarantee that out of like maybe 10 cars in queue that maybe you'll watch a movie and you'll be able to have your car charged by the time you get out. That's the general idea of it.
Oh, okay. So cars automatically move. They're taking off, right?
Yeah.
What? So what happens when the car is done? Do they go into a new spot where like all the cars that are done? So then there's a new free spot, or is it they're always in that?
Oh, like there's like a rotation of
Yeah,
spots that they go
like if
through.
it's like a rotational thing, and it's in that spot, and then it moves to the next car, it'll come back around to that car again,
Yeah, yeah.
or do you,
So
yeah,
this might have to depend on like the location, right? Because if
yeah.
you're in an extremely crowded place where it's tough to get parking, like a Third Street Plaza in Santa
Mm-hmm.
Monica, then if you have just these like spots open, then it'll have to be like a private area that is specific to this EV charging station. Because if it's not private, then people are going to swoop on the spots. So when people try and move out, there's no real place to go to.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, oh, I think I get what you were saying that. Maybe when they get out, they can just take another spot in line, or like they're not going to use the EV charging stations anymore, but
Yeah.
whatever car takes their spot, they'll just swap,
Oh, okay.
right? So in that sense, there's always a guaranteed spot because if an EV is going to take your spot, then you have somewhere to go to,
Yeah.
right? So if this is all handled with the server, all communicated together in like this one little network, then it shouldn't have a problem. You'll have like car A needs to go to car B spot and vice versa.
Okay. So then, what if somebody? Because I feel like I would probably do this if I completely forgot about my car, right? So I'm like leaving my car there for like 10 hours. Would that be like something to like think about? Like, would they get booted out completely, or like I don't?
Booted out of like what the whole structure or like
Yeah,
your parking spot?
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know. I
yeah,
think that's something that's like would have to depend on that company,
yeah.
like or the area again, because if parking spots are hard to come by, then they might want to kick you out so they can get more cars in the rotation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but if you're in a place that's not too crowded, then they might not even care, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. So then, if you have all these cars, um, how would is it completely free? Are you gonna have people like pay for it, or would you want people to pay for it, or how would you go about like funding this whole
So
yeah.
I think that like I mean the way that Tesla's
Yeah,
done their superchargers
yeah.
before is that you'd pay like upfront, right? So it's not
Hmm.
necessarily free, but you pay like, or maybe it was free at some point, but now like you pay like $2,000-3,000
Oh yeah, yeah,
upfront,
yeah.
and then you can use it for the life of your vehicle. So maybe they can have like because this has to be used with like every OEM, any type of electric vehicle out there, that you can't like go through that same route that Tesla used. So you would have to um, charge like the customer, like maybe upfront,
Hmm.
or like some kind of a subscription service. So like maybe it's like a fast pass where you pay like monthly, and
Hmm.
then you can use it as much as you want, or maybe it's um, yeah, a subscription service where like it only charges you when you're there, but it uses your plate to charge you, exactly
Oh,
like
okay.
fast pass as well.
Takes a pitch.
Or or maybe like when you drive up, because they'd want to make sure that this is accessible to everyone, right? So if
Yeah,
you keep it restricted to these subscriptions, then you're stuck to this small group.
yeah,
So if someone just wants to come and use it that one time, then if you drive up, hopefully like if someone wanted to make this, then it like prompts you like, hey, this is how long it'll take until your car is charged because there are this many cars in front of you in the queue.
oh yeah, yeah. That'd be cool.
And if you want to charge so much, then it'll cost this much money, right? And they'll charge you like for the service, for the spot, and then for the energy that you're going to be charging. So I mean, with this, it might be a little difficult to do because you need to make sure that for all the models of cars, you have some type of idea of how much it'll cost to bring like a car from 0 to 80
Yeah,
or 30 to 50. And then that also brings in what the customer wants. You know, like maybe they don't want to go the full charge. Maybe they just want to get enough to go home,
mm,
right? So you get there and then you say, I only want like this many miles of range, which for this car amounts to this much energy.
mm-hmm,
So bring me to 50%, and then I'll charge the rest when I get home.
mm-hmm.
And then that could be something that is prompted to the driver
Oh yeah,
when they get to the structure.
yeah. Because yeah, that would streamline it. Like you know exactly which. But then, so say that car specifically is like the battery life isn't as ideal. So like
Yeah,
it's not charging as fast as it should. So like instead of them like they're like, oh, I want 50 miles,
yeah,
but so then the system is like, oh, it's gonna charge for an hour, but it actually takes them
okay,
2 hours to charge to get to
okay.
there. Would the person, be charged extra because their car isn't like a brand new car with like the ideal, um, you know, rates?
I don't think that's actually how it would work
No. Okay.
because you would get, so the way that you charge a vehicle, I don't really work on like charging vehicles, but I do work with batteries. So
Mm-hmm.
from my understanding, it would be that you dump in a certain amount of amp hours into your battery, and then that would relate to like a certain amount of like watt hours estimated, and
Mm-hmm.
then you get like for that vehicle some expected estimated watt hours per mile, and then that would be your range, right? And then this is all learned by the vehicle over time. Every vehicle should be learning this on its own for its specific vehicle and their driving habits,
Mm-hmm.
so that your range estimated will be accurate. And I mean, that's at least how I would do it. So this this expected range that you have for your vehicle is specific to you,
Mm-hmm.
and then it should be able to communicate that to this server, this like network, and say, okay, for this driver, for this vehicle, I'll need this much energy, and
Yeah.
the person said they want this much range. I need to be on charge this long.
Mm.
So, like, typically, like, if a battery is bad, you won't need to charge longer for more range. You will just need to, you might need to a little bit, but then you'll more likely just not have a lot of range. And
Yeah.
that's the primary thing that older batteries or degraded batteries would suffer from. So I don't think that you would have to charge for a longer period of time. But some batteries might have to, like maybe they're only rated for a certain amount of current to charge.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, you're asking if they're charged on the extra time. Huh.
But I mean, they wouldn't be charged on the extra time since the communication would be, they would the station would know exactly what that car needs for
Yeah,
whatever it is. Yeah.
yeah.
So I guess that wouldn't even be a problem.
But it's kind of interesting what you say because if some car manufacturer wants to design their car so that they can accept a ton of energy really quick because they're working with specific battery suppliers,
Mm-hmm.
then they could. But then that means that they could charge faster at certain stations than others if the station allows it. So can these stations segregate to other cars saying that, okay, these cars take too long to charge, so we don't really want them to be here, or we want to charge them a premium because they're going to take so much time. That, it could end up being an issue, but I hope it doesn't come to that.
I know.
I
Yeah.
mean, like if I wanted to design it something like that, then I wouldn't say like, oh, because you have this model car, you need to pay extra to charge. That's a little uh, BS.
But I mean, you would make way more money that way.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, you would. I mean, to me, this is not about money, right? It's not
Oh
like
yeah, yeah,
designing this thing to make money. It's more just like can we design this thing to work? And I think we can.
yeah. Okay. Shoot. I mean, the way I would design it though, like we were talking about a few days ago, was if the charging station went around and charged the vehicles, autonomously, and
Okay.
instead of
Yeah.
so like you just have a normal parking garage that's already there, but then it's the charger that goes detects like, oh, or maybe you go to the station and you're like, hey, I want to charge my car. You tell them your license plate. It goes finds your license plate. um, or if the parking garage has like the numbering system for the parking spots, it knows
Yeah.
exactly where to go, and then it would charge you there. But then you would just need a fleet of all these little robots.
Sure. And this would enable cars that aren't autonomous to also
Yeah,
get in on the service, right?
yeah.
The only thing I see with that is that if you want these mobile charging stations that would be doing um, like 30 kilowatts of charging
Mm-hmm.
capability, you need like big wires,
Oh yeah, I didn't even
like
think
big
about that.
gauge wires connected to these
Mm-hmm.
devices, and then they're going to be like traveling back and forth. So these things, they could end up being pretty huge.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Um, but I mean, it could work. If you're doing inductive charging, then you need to know where under the vehicle you need to be.
yeah. Okay, okay. So you know how the Tesla battery is? It's not that large. Like when or like most EV,
Sure,
like
okay.
it's not super crazy big. Like if you were to like fold it up into like a square, right? It
Okay,
probably
fine.
fit in the
If
back seat of a car.
sure, if you
So
wanted to put it like
what
that.
if you had a battery like that? You just house that differently to charge the Tesla battery. So you use the Tesla battery to charge. So then you would have to charge up that battery, and then you discharge it into you know. So then
Wait.
you wouldn't
Oh,
need a giant. So it's basically like one car charging another car.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you could do that. You just have energy loss, right?
Yeah.
Because then you have to do the extra step of storing energy into that battery, and that's
Mm-hmm.
like 90% efficiency or something. And then you take that energy and then you put it into another one, 90% efficiency. It'd have to be like a special car that had um, like the electronics on it to be able to be this like power supply.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't just like straight up attach a battery to another battery
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah,
things are fine.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean that, like, if Tesla hopped on that, all their old batteries that they recycle can be used for an autonomous charging fleet.
An autonomous charging fleet, sure. But I don't know if people would want to like, you know, rent out their vehicle. Like they go to work and they're like, all right, I'm gonna schedule you to autonomously charge other vehicles throughout the day. I mean,
Mm,
that could be cool, but I don't know if people would actually want to do that.
yeah, yeah.
I wouldn't. I'm so like turned off about their allowing other people to use your car during the day like a renting service. I don't
Oh
like that.
yeah. Aren't aren't what that's gonna happen pretty soon. Like you can Uber your car out or lift your car
I
out.
think so. I think so. Yeah.
That's crazy. Huh.
What? How are we on time? I forgot to start my timer
Oh,
in the beginning.
me me too. I don't know.
Okay. So
Well,
I'm at 12 minutes, so we'll just go from there, I
okay.
guess. Yeah, so I mean, this is like something that's well within our technology. It's just a lot of like infrastructure, and I don't know who's gonna really do it because it's essentially just like a parking structure and then a charging station service, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you need like more EVs on the road to even need to consider something like this.
Mm-hmm.
So that like EV congestion is rampant, and then people are like unplugging vehicles and then parking next to them and stealing their chargers just because they want to charge. Like if that stuff becomes a prominent issue, then we need to start thinking about things like this. But
Yeah.
right now, it's not necessary
Mm-hmm.
yet, but it could be really soon.
Yeah. Dang, I didn't even think about people taking the chargers out from other people's cars to charge theirs.
Yeah, I mean it happens. I hear stories from people that like people have taken their chargers. Yeah. I mean, did you have anything else to add to this?
No, I mean, I would just want like the station to be portable. You know.
Okay. So the charger comes to you. You,
Yeah, the
you don't have to
charger.
go to
Yeah,
charging.
that's how I would want it because then you don't have to change too much with all the
Yeah.
current
Yeah.
uh, infrastructure.
It could get there. Maybe there's like an easier way of doing it. Like instead of having the device on the floor and it travels to you, because you're like in a parking structure probably,
Mm.
then you have it on rails on the roof,
Mm. Yeah.
you know? And like maybe it's just a really advanced um, Tesla Snake charger. So like it's on rails on the roof and it goes on a rail between like 10 cars, and then there's some overlap. So like charger A can do like cars 1 through 10, and then charger B can do like 6 through 15, something like that.
Mm.
And then it'll like go to the spot and release the snake charger, and it goes down, plugs into the vehicle. I could see something like that.
Mm-hmm.
This is like super futuristic though. It's
That
like something you see in the movie.
that is, but it can actually be done right now.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it'd be really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. But nobody's thinking about it.
But it's not that because it's not needed yet. I think that's the main reason why, right? Hmm. It'll be the new gas station. I just thought of that, actually.
But see, the appeal with gas stations is literally it's a 5 minute stop. You know.
Yeah. Oh, but the there's like a recent announcement where like Ford, BMW, Daimler, which is Mercedes, VW, they're gonna make like this pan Europe charging station system similar to what Tesla did in America, but they want their chargers to charge 3 times faster than Tesla's superchargers. So if again, I don't remember the time, it's like 15 or 30 minutes. It's one of those, but that means that their chargers will charge your vehicles in 5 to 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So it is 5 to 10. It's not bad, but it's still not gas speed.
Yeah. Dang, 5 minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
That's pretty
I
good.
think
Because what?
Porsche.
Oh, what?
I was just gonna say that Porsche announced last year that they also wanted to get their charging down to 5 minutes. I think it's five. I'm thinking about it. I think it's 15 now.
Yeah.
I don't remember on the top of my head.
Because I think that's also, um, I mean, we touched on it the other day too, but like, that's the appeal, um, like once that is completely solved, like it doesn't matter about how much range a vehicle has, or an electric vehicle has. Yeah, it can have 100 miles, but if you can charge it in 5 minutes or like 3 minutes or super fast, then
Yeah,
people will get it. Because like gas car, you go fill up, back on the road.
sure, yeah. Or, charge it where you are, right? In
Mm-hmm.
this autonomous charging structure thing.
Yeah.
So I guess the bottom line is like you use autonomous vehicle technology with charging stations, and then you somehow make a network where they all talk to each other and they'll charge in the sequence as they appeared in the vehicle or as they got in line, right? And there's like a huge way to like make a business around this where you just basically charge them for energy and then like maybe a little extra and then for the spot that they're using. Yeah. This might become some startup in the future. We'll see.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. So, time for topic two.
Yeah, yeah. I think we're good on that.
Okay. Um, so the second topic is something that I wanted to talk about, mainly because there's been a lot of crazy, tragic events, like back when France had 84 people ran over by a semi truck, and then Vegas in 2016, there's like 20 people who got ran over on the Vegas Strip. And recently in New York City, somebody ran over like 8 people. Um, but it's just like, why is it so easy for people to get ran over if you're walking on the sidewalk? Mainly because sidewalks haven't been changed or upgraded since the 19th century. I did some research, and this guy, Georges Eugene Haussmann, was basically, I mean, he created the sidewalks, the first ones in Paris, and paved way for the current structure or the current city structures that we have right now. So, yeah, nothing's been changed since the 19th century with how much technology has been growing. Why haven't we improved the things that we are on every single day? So then I looked into any advancements in sidewalk technology. The only thing I came across was this thing called PaveGen, which just, if you step on it, generates energy that can be stored and used to like power lights and um, whatever you want. But that's the only real sidewalk improvements that we have. So, I mean, I was just thinking the technology that can be super simple, that can actually help improve like any situation, make people feel safe, is that currently curbs are only like 6 inches, and super simple, just make them 12 inches. So basically, you have your concrete, and then you just add a whole nother layer. 6 inches, yes, it would cost hundreds of millions, if not, of dollars to raise all the sidewalks everywhere.
Hmm.
But um, you would feel safe walking on the sidewalk because a car would not be able to go over the edge unless it was a big like truck, you know. Um,
Yeah, yeah. Big trucks are like number one seller in America.
oh yeah, that's so true. That
They're
is
just
so
not in
true.
California.
Okay. So then, do you think there is a solution or a better way to improve sidewalks, or like what technology we can use to improve
Just for
sidewalks
safety. I think there
just for
is.
safety? Yeah.
I mean, it. I feel like it would really depend on where you are, like
Mm-hmm.
country, and then where you are in the country, types of vehicles there, that would like dictate what is the best solution. So like you're saying these raised sidewalks to 12 inches, but that might not really work for America just because there's a lot of big trucks here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it could in Europe probably, because then you get all these like small cars. They might be a little lower to the ground because they care about like fuel efficiency and they're like really small. So then they would just basically ram into these foot high concrete blocks, right? So it could work over there, maybe something like that. But as you're saying, yeah, it's really expensive to do that.
Hmm.
Mm. Instead of what they could do is that instead of raising the sidewalk, like they can always lower the streets. Because like if they have was it tar pavement,
Yeah.
they because then they you just like remove the surface and then you repave it, right? So when you remove the surface to like clean up the road, then you just like take a couple inches off extra and then you repave, and eventually you get to your 12-foot goal.
What I feel like wouldn't that be more expensive lowering a whole street?
Well, I'm only saying if you're repaving anyway, it might be better, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Or not better, but like cheaper. I don't really know what it would cost because of like sewer
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like, do you mess up your gutters? Do you
I
mess
know.
up the? Yeah,
Yeah,
go
I
ahead.
know. Like, there's a certain depth where you got phone lines and then all the copper
Yeah,
wires and all that stuff. I think they're
that's
like
true.
6 to 12 inches, and I think the water stuff is like 12 to 24 inches
Yeah,
below. So then,
it's a tough topic because you're basically discussing like, can we change the infrastructure to be a little bit better than it was originally designed?
yeah. So I mean, guess the solution is to just have a better plan in the first place. Um,
Sure, yeah.
but do you think like long in term in the future anything will change?
Long term in the future.
Yeah, so like 20 years from now, do you think our roads will still be the same?
Are you talking about like in existing cities or like new cities?
Both, but mainly leaning towards the existing cities.
Oh, okay. So I guess I'll start off with new cities because that's a little shorter of an answer.
Hmm.
I think like there's this one country in like South America. I think it's Argentina or something. They have like these super city blocks, which are like a mile by a mile, something like that. And then maybe like future cities can be built like this, where there's the only place you really take cars is on like the highways in between these super city blocks. And then if you want to go inside the city block, you have to park in their parking structure. And then you just like walk around in it. Maybe you use that structure's bike system. Maybe they'd have like a bike share program there.
Hmm.
Or you'd use like a small trolley that's in there. Or maybe you just walk. I mean, it's not that big, right? And then you'd basically be removing the sidewalk as an interface between pedestrians and cars, right? Because you'll never really see them. They're only on these automotive automotives are only on these like sidewalks.
Hmm.
I mean sidewalks. They're only on these highways in between the city blocks, and then the people are only inside of it. And that might like just taking out the sidewalk might be the future answer for that.
Hmm.
As far as like cities that already exist, oh man, it's like it's hard to think of a solution that is cheap that people could
Yeah,
do now.
yeah.
I think when you were mentioning this to me earlier, you mentioned the little divots in the road that made the like
Oh yeah,
da
yeah.
da 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 noise, right? When
Hmm.
you're veering out of your lane. So like maybe you can use those, but like you improve those a little bit,
Hmm.
so that you instead of making it like a single tone, like if you have the space between the blocks consistent for a certain length of time, it'll create a certain tone, right? Because it'll oscillate the car at a certain frequency.
Hmm.
So if you do that, but instead of a single tone like there are now, you oscillate it so it's like a low high, kind of like an alarm, then it could possibly work more effectively. Um, but something that's like a barrier, I don't know if there's anything that can be cheap. Like maybe the answer is just not to rely on infrastructure and it's to rely on autonomous vehicles.
Yeah.
So that you just like, oh, you're swerving out and then it just swerves you back in.
Hmm.
Or if you swerve out too aggressively, then it just like shuts off your vehicle,
Hmm.
and
But
then
then,
you're just yeah. Go ahead.
so I mean, this is like segueing off, but like when you veer off like that, what if it's to avoid an accident and you're doing it deliberately, and then your car shuts off, and then that would cause an accident?
Right. Okay. Well, you're saying that if the autonomous vehicle veered you off, or no, you
Or no,
veered off.
you veered off because you're like, oh, there's
Yeah.
a deer in the road, so you're gonna go
Sure.
like swerve, and then you swerve, and then the
Autonomous
autonomous is
vehicle
like,
kicks in
oh,
and swerves you back in.
that, or it's like, oh, this person's trying to drive off a curb, we're gonna
Yeah.
stop,
Yeah.
and then I don't know, a, you would get hit from the back, or if there's another car, or something crazy would happen.
Sure. Well, hopefully cars will be able to recognize that by
Yeah.
that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
They'd be able to say, "Oh, there's an object in the road. This guy's swerving out. It's safe to swerve." So it allows you to do it, or it helps you properly do it without like hitting anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, I seen the Tesla's, avoid accident avoidance
Yeah.
system. It's pretty good. But yeah, every car would have to have that technology. For I don't know. It's just I think people just need to be aware then. Just be aware on the sidewalk if anybody's gonna I don't know. If you see somebody driving up on the sidewalk, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, if someone
Yeah.
drove up on the sidewalk, there was an experiment done by like some Mythbuster type show. I don't think it was them, where they had different densities of concrete and they tried to decrease the density so that it would make the car sink in if it started to drive on it.
Mm-hmm.
But for that, you'd have to consider how fast the vehicle is going, how heavy the vehicle is, so you get like the pressure, and maybe like the pressure for a certain amount of time, and then figure out what density is appropriate for like that speed limit zone for certain types of vehicles, and then if the vehicle veers off into the sidewalk, it would dip in and kind of like slow it down because you're driving into the sidewalk essentially.
Mm-hmm.
But you'd have to make it so that it would dip in and then like not bite so that the car wouldn't flip if you're going too fast. Because if you have this like an on a highway where you're going like 60 plus, and then you go off to the side, it bites because it dug in like too quickly, then your car flips. That's a problem in itself. But something like that might be able to be the answer. Like if you're in small neighborhoods, something like that,
Mm-hmm.
maybe.
Hmm. But then, like you said, I mean, you would have to account for every kind of car because you have to know every single car that's going to be driving on that road, or
Yeah,
all the different weights. And
it,
then
yeah,
if people
it's
have,
a tough,
yeah,
tough problem.
yeah. Actually, um, I think there is a solution that is happening,
Oh
um,
yeah,
with this whole like sidewalk issue, if it is really an issue, with the Boring Company. You know how Elon Musk wants to dig the underground tunnels.
yeah,
If all of traffic is taken underground, there's like a network of, and then we don't have any cars on the surface, then
yeah,
there would never be any issues like that. And then maybe it would be a rarity to see a car above ground. And then if you see a car above ground, then you're like, everybody's watching it, or it's like it's out of place, and you're like, something's wrong, because you
sure.
see a vehicle.
I'm
That's
just gonna point out that it's basically the reason why it works is the same as the super city block things, where
yeah,
you remove the interface of pedestrians and cars.
yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, you can't build a super city block if there's already a city there, right?
yeah.
So, yeah, and that could be the solution that also does that same thing. The reason why that works, but for pre-existing cities, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good point.
And then yeah, but otherwise, I guess we're supposed. we're supposed to come up with a solution, right? Like, or like an actual design.
Yeah.
Um,
But our take on the design.
I mean, I think sidewalks right now they're fine, except it's just future thinking. Maybe think about raising sidewalks. That's what I would do. I would want to raise the sidewalks just so they're higher, and then that would be my solution. Raise the sidewalks, and you would make people feel a bit safer. Um, yeah, trucks can drive
Maybe.
over, but then you know it's still safer because you're like, oh, I'm like higher than traffic instead of at the same level.
Yeah, it might work.
Yeah, but it's just a lot of money. It's not anytime soon. So, your topic number 3.
Sure, yeah. So the third topic is to discuss Apple's iPhone battery strategy. And it's kind of broad because I said Apple's iPhone battery strategy, but I'm really just talking about like their strategy and how it compares to Android strategy or the average Android strategy because they're all different companies, right? And basically, what I'm saying is that the bottom 10% of iPhone's battery, like your 0 to 10, or however much they might be thinking is the bottom, that is more than any other 10% in the iPhone's battery display. So if that 10% in the iPhone's battery is way more than anything else that you'd see, that's also 10%. And even on Android, it's more than that too, because they're like using this social engineering to make the customer think that when they get really low battery, that their battery is really awesome or their phone's really awesome because when it's that low, it'll still allow you to watch YouTube, it'll still allow you to make calls, and you have no fear of it running out. Because now that I have like an iPhone for my company phone, and I have an Android. I've always had Android, and I've compared the two. It's like when I'm down to like 10% with my company phone, I know I can still go to work and it'll be fine. But if it's on my Android phone, I know I have to bring my charger because I'll be screwed. It'll die throughout the day if I try and do anything, you know? So it's like, why is there a disparity between the two? It's obviously because Apple wants there to be like this social engineering aspect to it. But then why doesn't any Android company like replicate the strategy or also make use of the battery's display like Apple does?
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, like why Apple would want to do it, right? It's because they want to make their phone seem really good, and then people stick with them when they think that the reliability is better than Android.
Yeah. So then, since you mentioned reliability, oh, fun fact: today, I didn't charge my phone last night, and it was at 1%, and it was 1% literally the whole day. And I was playing music, watching YouTube videos, and then it was still got some texts, and I'm still at 1%. It was in low battery mode, so then if I Google something, it was a little slow, but it was it lasted all day. Didn't even
Hmm,
have to charge it, which is, you know, pretty cool. But you said reliability. So
sure.
if you go back, I mean, basically, if iPhone's at 10%, but it really has 50% battery left, right? If that's the case, say you're charging your phone, you usually charge your phone when it's at like 20%, right? Like you mentioned this, 20, 15, or people would
Yeah,
usually charge it.
something low.
And when you charge your battery when it's not fully drained, it prolongs the battery life, right?
Yeah, yeah, it does. Yeah.
So Apple, in turn, thought of this long time ago. They're like, okay, we are coming out with a premium device, and we want people to always want this premium device. So what is the one thing that we can do that would make it even better? So they're like, we're gonna make sure the battery doesn't die. So 3 years from now, your iPhone 4, your iPhone 5 will still be working, you know, and the problem won't be because the battery won't hold a charge, you know. So then they thought of that so long ago that they implemented that, and now today you still have people who are using an iPhone 5 or a
And it's still
4,
good,
and
right?
it's still good. So
Yeah.
then they've concreted themselves, like you said, that social engineering from like years since 2007, and you're like, no, the iPhone is way better because it'll last forever, and there's no question about it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
So what you're saying is that the iPhone strategy makes, like, when you get the phone, it makes the user want to charge every day, so more frequently, so that the battery lasts longer.
mhm.
Right. Yeah, 'cause I definitely agree with that. I mean, I don't know. I like how a typical iPhone user would charge their phone, but when I got my new phone, the Moto Z Play last year, I charged it once every 2 days, and I thought that was really cool. But then, I was kind of like killing it
Mhm.
over an extended time, but then I just didn't want to charge it every day. Um, so yeah, I think that's a very good point.
Yeah. And you said how, and I mean, I'm an iPhone user. Um, I charge my phone every single night, and I think most people do. That's
Yeah,
just
I
a
mean,
natural
there's
thing.
no reason not to, right? You're
Yeah.
going to sleep, you're not using it. Why don't you charge it?
Yeah. So like Apple knew that, and yeah, it's better for somebody to charge their phone that says 10%, or like they use it all day, but it's really 50% because it's not going to mess up that battery
Yeah,
type deal. Um, Cause I charge it every night with my Apple Watch, and you know if I had the AirPods, I would charge that too.
I'm not a fan of Apple. It's too expensive. But yeah, I want to clarify the whole, like, you know, saving battery, because
Yeah,
I didn't really mention it on this podcast. I mentioned it to you another day.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, like, basically, if you use your phone like 40 to 60, let's keep the energy the same. So you use it from 40 to 60. So you have a 60 beginning of the day, goes down to 40, and then you charge it back up to 60, and you use it down to 40, and that's one whole day, right? So
Mm-hmm.
40%. And then if you compare that to someone else using their phone, and they go from 70 beginning of the day and they charge it down to 30, so that same 40%, right? Then they charge it once. The user who goes from 70 to 30 will have the more degraded battery. So the battery will have less capacity quicker. And their phone will be like worse after a year's time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why this strategy works if Apple's using it.
Mm-hmm.
So how would you design this, like your company's battery strategy? What would you do?
Right. Because also you were saying like, why doesn't any other company do that right now? Why don't they just
Which,
copy a simple thing?
yeah,
Yeah.
they might, like we don't know
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we don't work there or anything. They might, but it's not obvious, right?
Yeah.
To me, I've used several different Android phones from several different companies, and they've all done it. Like 10%, you say goodbye to your phone. You turn that thing off because you'll need it in an emergency, and unless you have a charger right then and there, you need to save it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, what would you do? Because I don't think anyone else is copying them.
Um, I would actually, um, I would be. I think this is a strategy that every other company is doing, is because people, nowadays, businesses, every year they want to make profit. They want to turn profit, and new phones come out every single year, and you want your customers to buy your new product every single year. So why, like Apple's doing, why go? I mean, Apple was playing the long game from before. They've already established it. But why would a new company want somebody's phone's battery to last longer? when they can just have them. Yeah, we're gonna make sure that the battery percentage shows exactly what it is. So they actually degrade their battery. So then that next year comes around, the battery life isn't, or the amount of battery cycles, whatever, isn't the best. So they're like, my phone doesn't hold a charge anymore. Oh my, like it's been a year. It's like, battery drains so fast. I need to get the new phone that just came out. So they're gonna come back and they're gonna buy the new phone because their current phone only lasted the year. But I mean, during that whole year, it was perfectly fine. They're like, oh yeah, everything's good. But that 1 year comes around, I would make sure I would get the average use, make the battery life literally like 1 year. Just 1 year, the
So
battery.
it'd be crap after that year.
It would
You'd be
be.
forced to get a new phone.
You would be forced to get a new phone.
And you don't have an external battery, so you force them to get a new phone all like no matter what.
Yep. Yeah. That's why you have an That's why there's no more of those. You can just change the batteries anymore. It's all built in, and then you have a consistent every year. You got new people, and then there's the people who, maybe they don't use their phone as much. Like my mom, she doesn't use her phone that much.
Sure. Okay.
And maybe their battery lasts, 2 years because not using it as frequently, but that's
Yeah.
still okay. Or like 6 months or whatever, or a year and a half, they're still gonna come back. Especially if they really like the device. So
But how do you know they're gonna come back, right? Because like you're making them buy a new phone, so wouldn't they think that, oh, this battery's so bad, it's like it's dying on me like all the time now after
yeah.
1 year. I don't want to go back to them.
See, but that's the thing. In today's society, nobody is thinking about that with their battery. People know, like, they want their battery to
I
last.
am.
Yeah, okay, yeah, you're. But like the vast majority of people, they, you know, you're like, you want your battery to last all day, maybe 2 days, but everybody knows you're charging your phone every single night. So it's your fault if you don't charge your phone and your battery dies in the middle of the day. Like that's like a social norm now. So and no company, even, I mean, there's been phones that have came out with like a 4,000 milliamp battery or like a really big battery, or like, oh, we make you it'll last 2 full days. But nobody really cares about that. Nobody is like, oh, I want that phone because it'll last me 2 days. They want the phone that the camera's really nice. Oh, look at this screen. Oh, look at this.
Sure.
All the bells and whistles. So companies, they don't need to worry about like that battery. I wouldn't even be worried. Yeah, my battery may suck a year later, but what else can I provide to get that brand loyalty? And that's what the key is. Like,
So what are those other things?
so like for like the reason why people like the I guess I'll use Samsung, right? Samsung, okay, they're the leading market in the screens. They create all the OLED panels for all the phones, iPhones included, everything. So for them, they had the luxury of creating something ahead of the curve before everybody else, which was like their edge-to-edge display, right? And their camera has caught up with the iPhone's quality. It's like depending on if you like warmer or cooler pictures or whatever. But for Samsung, they have that design cool factor. In the past like 2-3 years, every year the design has gotten better and better and better. So then people are like, "Ooh, I want to get the new Samsung phone. Look, the screen wraps around the edge. Isn't that so cool? Oh, look at this. It's like, and that's what's drawing their, customer base. And then they get this beautiful phone. They're like, oh, they like it. They like the user interface. People like iPhones because it's so simple. People like Androids because all the
Sure.
customization and stuff. And then 1 year later, you're like, oh man, it's like getting slow. The battery's dying. Oh, but there's the new version, and look, there's the new screen. Oh, look at the new
I don't
camera.
know. I don't know.
So I'm gonna get that.
I think everyone is getting a little too comfortable with buying a phone every year.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those people. I'm like always like, can I go 2 years? Can I go 3 years?
Yeah.
But like, I think it's dangerous to play it that way because if phones don't really increase their like technology a lot, then
Hmm.
all the phones are like the same. All the top flagship phones, like the cameras are really close,
They're all,
right?
yeah.
So then like, who's to say that someone's like, oh, this battery is really bad for me this year. Maybe I'll try LG next year. Just this one
Hmm.
time. And then what if they like stick with them and then
Hmm.
that's it? You know? Like just because of the battery. Because all the hardware is generally the same now. You have the same amount of RAM, unless you're Razer and you do 8 GB.
Yeah.
You have the same um, processor. Everyone uses like Qualcomm, except Apple, who makes their own.
Yeah.
I mean, Apple's processor is really good, but
It's a
it's a whole different
beast.
thing.
Yeah.
So like, if you're not afraid to like hop from brand to brand, then a battery might be the deciding thing. That's
True.
what I think.
Okay.
So like,
Yeah.
I'm
Uh,
I'm on the different side of the fence than you. You're like, oh, let's use the battery to make people buy a phone every year. I think that's if you can develop your brand loyalty like Apple, I think it's a viable thing for you, which is really weird because Apple doesn't do that.
mhm.
So I think they're the one company who can get away with making their battery shitty and making people buy phones more often.
Mhm.
But I'm on the opposite side where I would just want to create a battery strategy that would like analyze the average use of the phone and kind of do some social engineering to make sure that users charge their phone the way that is best for their phone, which we might not be able to control that because people might just charge it at night and that's it. But it would hopefully, whatever social engineering we can do would hopefully help prolong the
Okay. I mean,
phone's battery life. Yeah,
with that, I feel like that's like a simple app idea. You can
sure.
battery status has dropped to 60%. Notify, hey, it's time to charge us. Charge me now. And
I mean,
then
yeah, you can totally do something like that, huh?
yeah, and
It
then
it might be difficult with Apple though. I don't know if they. My friend recently went into the API and he looked into like his battery's capacity at beginning of life when he first bought his phone and what it was now for
mhm,
comparison. But you have access to this in the API, but you can't put it in an app.
mm,
I mean, that's what he told me.
yeah,
Never looked into it myself, so
yeah,
I thought that was really interesting. So I don't know if something super in depth would be available on the iPhone
yeah,
App Store.
yeah.
Yeah,
But what you were saying, like battery would be the deciding factor. Um, it still hasn't gotten to that point yet because still all the flagships they all do their things so differently that
sure. They have all the same hardware,
hmm
but different ways of implementing it.
yeah, and then so
Yeah,
like Google Pixel, stock Android, and now they have their little artificial intelligence, their AI and machine learning.
but they're like the outlier.
True, but they now have the best camera on the market, the absolute best. It's ridiculous. And then iPhone's just iPhone. Everybody knows that. And then Samsung. What what distinguishes Samsung?
They have the pen.
Oh, for the Note, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And I
people
guess I
people
guess
who
their
like the pen, they
screen.
love the pen.
I know, right?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
screen.
yeah. And then the LG V30 is kind of like the camera too, but the Google
Yeah,
Pixel beat that.
I know.
Um,
It's really like whatever you're looking for, you know?
yeah.
The reason why I stick with Android and like the cheaper end is because if I wanted a nice camera, I'd buy a camera.
Hmm.
I'd buy like a Sony A6000 and
Hmm.
then be happy with that, because it gives me more control over the pictures
Hmm.
that I take than this like smartphone.
Yeah.
Anyway, um, I think we kind of wrapped over that topic pretty well.
Yeah. Okay. So then the last topic we're going to talk about, it's I guess it's not really. I mean, we can provide a solution, but it's just kind of. I think it's more bringing light to the fact, or to the bringing it to the table that nobody's really talking about. But we all know texting and driving is bad, super dangerous. You shouldn't do it. You take your eyes off the road. It's more dangerous than being a drunk driver. But
Is it though? I
it is.
disagree.
It,
I've
but
driven drunk.
aren't
I've driven while texting. Texting is easier.
texting is easier, but
Drunk, I look back and I'm like, I don't even know what I did that day.
but you were actually like looking at the road, not looking at the road.
But you could be looking at the road and not paying attention to it.
True, but then you would still be able to react to something. Then,
But you're impaired.
True, and
Maybe
you're
you
super
have to
slow.
text the right way. See, you're texting like this. I'm texting like this.
Oh,
With
like
swipe, and then I review, and then I'm like, no, that wasn't it.
oh no,
Or I just use Google Voice. I'm like, press the voice button and prompts me, and I just say it. I mean, don't text while drive.
yeah,
While driving.
don't do it.
Don't drink while driving. We don't condone.
Don't do that. Although the alcohol limit here is 0.08%, so that's like 2-3 drinks.
Is it?
Yeah,
I mean, that doesn't concern me because I don't drink anymore.
yeah. Drinking's bad.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, but look, okay. How often do you use GPS? What's the difference between looking at your phone for navigation and looking at your phone for texting? Both your eyes are off the road, and
Sure.
we have an acceptance for GPS. I've been in Uber and Lyft rides, Uber and Lyft rides, and it's pretty scary when you see your driver looking at their app because they got a new job, a new rider, and they're like swiping through and they're clicking this,
Yeah.
and then they
Yeah.
go back to the GPS, and
There's no concern for your safety.
exactly. And watching it, you're just like, so this is what I do when I'm like, oh, let me type in this place, or I'm changing a song, or like anything to do with the phone.
Sure. But I think it's also in combination with they're rushed. So they're trying to get a rider and they're also rushed getting to the next place. That makes it a little bit worse.
Yeah.
It
Because
is comparable.
they're trying to get as many rides as possible.
Yeah. Well, when you text, you might not be in a rush, so it's a little bit more controlled. So it's the same, but yet theirs is a little bit more extreme.
Yeah.
That's what I like to point out.
Uh-huh. So then, I mean, a lot of people would be like, oh, that's why you have like, a dash with like, a in-head unit display, or mount your phone. Like people have the little phone mounts, but you're still taking your eyes off the road when you look at your phone.
Yeah.
So then, is there a way that we can improve it? And, so we're not quickly glancing at our phone or not taking our eyes off the road. And I mean, the solution that comes to mind for anybody is, of course, a heads-up display.
I
Right.
agree. Yeah.
So, heads-up display. But would a heads-up display also be just as distracting?
As GPS, it depends how it's implemented, I think.
Yeah.
If you just go with like this is the street you're looking for, this is how far away it is, no picture of GPS, right?
Yeah.
Then that's it. And then like when you're close, then it prompts you with like arrow. I think that like simplistic UI is not so distracting.
Yeah.
If anything, that's the only thing I want from the navigation. When am I turning left? Where is it? How close am I? What's the name of the street? Or what's the exit or whatever?
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay. Right when you said that, I was actually thinking about, because you know how augmented reality is a thing. Like it's trying to become the norm.
Yeah.
If you could mount your phone to your dashboard, and you have AR looking at the road ahead, so obviously you have your screen, and then you have the GPS project onto.
Yeah.
So if you look at your phone, you're still looking at the road. You think that would solve it? So like Google Maps, you do the same thing, but you just mount it there and you see the road.
So your screen shows the road in front of you using whatever camera's there in the vehicle.
But you have to have it mounted.
And then it'll show you. So how's that different from heads-up display?
No, I mean that is a heads up. I'm just playing. That's like, it's more easily because everybody can mount their phone to the top of their, their steering wheel, like right there.
Yeah. Oh.
So then, because how would
Oh.
you put a heads-up display on like a '96 Corolla?
So you're saying to use the phone's
The
camera
phone's camera,
to augment it.
yeah, and it's just looking at the road, and then whatever field of view it is. So then, if you do happen to look at your phone for GPS, you're
Yeah.
still kind of looking at the road, just with directions.
Maybe. I mean, that's changing just the UI of the Google Maps, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. It could work. And then you just overlay the arrows and stuff on that. It can make it a little safer, maybe. You'd
Yeah.
have to conduct a test. I don't want to commit to it without any like concrete data.
True, true. Um, yeah. And then, what did I put here? Can there be a way for a car to predict the GPS destination to autonomously guide you each step of the way?
To
So
predict. What do you
that's
mean?
I was thinking, I think when I wrote that I was thinking like Tesla has like the sonar, right? The radar around and
Yeah.
everything. So then if you have GPS fully like engaged completely, so like you're in the car and you don't necessarily have any heads-up display, because right now GPS is pretty delayed. It's pretty slow. Like it'd be like, oh, turn right 50 feet before you're like right before, but it's gotten better. It's like, oh, you're gonna take a right.
They should have that like as a slider, you know?
Oh,
Slider
like
saying,
how
yeah,
soon
how
do you
early?
want
Like,
to?
oh, I want it a little bit earlier. And
Hmm.
then just like there's no units. It's just like, oh, a little bit earlier. And then you just, from your next ride, then you want it a little bit earlier. That's just fine.
Yeah,
Then, yeah, they should have that as a slider.
yeah. So
Because
like,
you're right, it's different per person. Because I think Google Maps is fine.
hmm,
I think it like sometimes it tells me a little early, actually.
too early.
Yeah. Well, not too early, just a little early. But
Yeah,
it depends on the street I'm on.
yeah. And then if it has like the right amount of data, you know, because there's some
Yeah.
streets where you get like, oh, you get like you can see the speed limit, and then you're like, oh, you don't
Yeah.
see it here. But then, so it's just strictly voice. But what if it was able to be like to tell you to change lanes now, you know, get in the right lane now, because it detected and you have the space, it's open, it knows there's no car there, and then so it's fully autonomously guiding you. Um, so it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, so
Lane by
then
lane,
lane by
driving
lane,
assist,
driving
navigation.
assistance, but you're in full control.
Sure. I mean, yeah, I mean that could be very cool, but who's to say that Google's not already trying to work their way there?
That is so true. Yeah.
They'd have to work with like OEMs though, using their Android car. What do they call it? Google Android car?
Oh, Android Auto or
Android Auto. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then it's
And then
Apple
integrate
CarPlay.
like
Yeah.
yeah. So you'd have like your certain sensors that are always fed to the OS, and then it would be able to use that to navigate.
Yeah.
But that has to be like standardized. I'm sure they're working towards that. So
Yeah.
I don't have a doubt that they're already trying to do something like that.
Mm.
Maybe not to the extent where you're talking about with sonar and saying like, hey, the next or the right two lanes are really crowded up ahead. You might want to switch now. Like
Yeah.
that type of thing might not be in their timeline, but
Yeah.
I mean, it would work. I mean, it would make it better.
That would be so awesome. Like,
Yeah. Because there's so many times I'm like driving, I'm like, I can make it. I can make it. And then I'm like 1 mile away from the exit and I'm like, oh, there's no way I
and
can
you
get
gotta
in right now.
yeah. And then it would make people feel so much safer because
It could, yeah.
you're just like, it's like you really do have a personal assistant. Like, oh, thank you, Karen.
Yeah. I would I liked how you were going with the augmented reality. Yeah.
Yes, and I was thinking, like, say it's like you mount your phone, because if you want it universal, so everybody has like the same
Sure.
view, you
Sure.
have to go on like the mirror thing,
Yeah. Rear view
or
mirror.
if yeah, rear rear view mirror, or if you actually, create something that goes on the top of the dash, like right by the steering wheel,
Yeah.
just right there. because that's pretty universal. And then, but then I was thinking if it's mounted to the rearview mirror, I don't know how Android Auto or Apple CarPlay is, but if you can like stream that feed to, you know, the Android Auto, no, but you want them. We want them to look at the road. So
Yeah.
right over the dash, right there.
In my opinion, that's still a problem.
Really?
Like, yeah, because then you'll be tunnel vision, right? So I think that the best way is to stick with your augmented reality, but to integrate it into the heads-up display, and then to this is like super futuristic. This is
Yeah.
like the dream I would want to see in my lifetime. It's that advanced. It's like you use the sonar, whatever autonomous vehicle stuff you have in the car, and then you use like a camera that's pointed at the driver that they might have to do like recognition if the driver's falling asleep or something for that type of safety stuff. And then they figure out where you are in the vehicle. And then they say, okay, he's like, the driver's here. The heads up display needs to be oriented for his vision. And then they say this lane is the lane you need to take. And then it just like highlights it in red or something. And then maybe you have some like, I don't know what to call it, sonar vision, but it like outlines all the cars in red or something in front of you, so you can see like, oh, there's a car behind that car, or there's, yeah, like something like that. And then maybe it would help you safely navigate from your lane to the next lane without being one of those people who are like, okay, I need to speed up like 90 miles an hour and then cut off the semi. Oh shit, there's another car over here. I need to cut this guy off. And then maybe you would be able to plan it better.
Yeah.
Because you have this sonar vision that's basically outlines of every car in front of you. And then that heads-up display will be able to orient all of these images with respect to you. Because if you're trying to get a better view of something, maybe you shifted your head over and then it'll slide over all the outlines. But that's a dream. I want to see it in my lifetime.
But you know what's crazy? We do have the technology for that now.
Yeah, I don't have any doubts that we do.
That would be super cool though. Especially with perspective to you. So you're just like,
Yeah.
oh okay.
I mean, it's got to be.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's useless. If there's no perspective to the view, it's like, oh, I'm using sonar vision. Let me just put my head back here so it works. Like maybe that's like the beta, but you can't put like that in the car.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think that really covers that topic. I mean,
It's
you know
pretty
what you would
interesting.
do. All right. So that was all 4 topics.
Yeah.
We would like to thank everybody for listening and watching. If you enjoyed this talk, hit the like button.
Hit the subscribe.
Hit the subscribe.
Come back next week.
Come back next week. We're doing this weekly, every week. What time? Monday?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, every Monday we'll be talking about new topics. If you have any topics that you want us to talk about, or if you think we could come up with any solutions, comment down below. Let us know. Do you have anything else you want to add, Glenn?
Plugs?
Yes.
Okay.
Plugs.
So definitely check me out. My Twitter's listed below. And then I do have a YouTube channel under that same Twitter name. And tomorrow, I think it's coming out tomorrow, or I guess Monday. So that's when this is coming out. We will be posting a video about a drone claw game. So it's pretty cool. It's basically imagine a claw game with sushi, but it's a drone. It's not a claw game. And then we're picking up the sushi and we're trying to land it on a plate. I'm not going to give any spoilers, but it's definitely a lot of fun. Check it out on my channel.
Yeah, I'm going to check it out. Cool. And then my Twitter's right there. Same thing for my YouTube. You just go and subscribe there. But subscribe here. Um, yeah, I guess that's everything. Until next time.
See ya.
Peace.